Underwater Theater. Written and read by Abby Brenker.
Clara had watched the workers slowly assemble the giant glass and steel structure and then sink it into the spring lake. The signs had gone up days ago, and the balloons finally appeared today, marking the great opening. The crisp end of summer breeze lifted the ends of Clara's short auburn hair as she wove through the crowd, 2 tickets in hand. It was opening day at the Underwater Theater, and Clara's mother had sent her into the dense crowd to secure 2 tickets. Her mother could see her daughter's bright red coat and the matching hat bobbing closer. Mission accomplished. Clara didn't need to beg her mother that morning. She had spent 2 weeks talking about the opening, wearing her down. Now Clara proudly possessed 2 tickets to the Underwater Theater, and she couldn't believe it. "Let's get in line, over here," Clara's mom called out to her daughter. Within seconds, Clara was by her side, a huge grin on her face. "I'm so excited," Clara breathed as they joined the queue of people waiting to be admitted. "The sign at the ticket booth said there's a show every hour on the hour. I hope we get into the first one. I want to be the first one to see it." "Patience, Clara. There are a lot of people here. We are privileged to be able to come to a show. Some people can't afford, but Clara stopped short as she saw the look on her mother's face. "Oh, I know." They settled into silence and observed the buzz around them. Vendors walked up and down the line of people selling roasted nuts and spun sugar. A band played off near the entrance, enticing new townsfolk to stop by. And Clara jumped, startled as a clown tapped her on the shoulder. Her mother gave her an encouraging nudge. Clara hated clowns. This one held up 10 fingers in front of his face, as if Clara was not smart enough to know where his head had gone. He lowered them silently. "Ta-da!" She rolled her eyes. She wasn't a baby anymore. The man behind her clapped loudly. Clara was not here for roasted nuts or grown men in white face makeup. She was here for the mermaids. The sign had distinctly shown 2 beautiful mermaids that supposedly lived in Spring Lake. All this time, there had been mermaids right down the street from her home, and she had no idea. The line started to move. Clara took very deliberate steps forward, trying her very, very best to be patient. They were letting people in. She craned her neck, trying to see what was ahead. The top of the sunken theater poked out over the smooth surface of the water. It looked like a submarine, complete with the top deck for people to observe. The line was really moving now. Only 3 people in front of them. 2. And then Clara extended her hand to the ticket taker. 2, please, she said with a cheery smile. "Enjoy, little miss." The man tipped his hat and winked at her mom. And then he called, "That's it. The theater's full for the first show. Stay in line and you'll be in the next one." "Did you hear that, Mom? We just made it." "It was meant to be," her mom returned. The pair walked up onto the observation deck before arriving at a hole in the center with a drop ladder which admitted them to the Underwater Theater. Inside, the sun melted away immediately. Clara's eyes took a few seconds to adjust to the red velvet seats, floor, walls, and ceilings. It was like being inside the fanciest underwater cars she'd ever seen. "Holy cow," she whispered under her breath. "Holy cow is right," her mom repeated. There were sconces along the walls, admitting just enough light for Clara to find the last 2 seats. There was a low murmur of excitement. The other patrons didn't know what to expect either. They were all in it together. "Ladies and gentlemen," a voice boomed from all directions. The entire crowd jumped. "Welcome to the maiden voyage of the Underwater Theater at Spring Lake. A feat of modern engineering, a marvel of our times. You're about to find out the secrets of the deep. You're about to be dazzled by the previously unknown. You and only you can say you were the first to experience a new show that will surely sweep across the nation and globe. Be sure to tell your friends." Clara's mother squeezed her daughter's hand as 2 boys dressed in dark colors slowly slid the partitions away from the windows that lined the walls, letting in the most brilliant aquamarine light they'd ever seen. The crowd gasped. Clara squealed with delight. This was it. She was going to see a real mermaid. For a moment, everyone sat in silence, taking in the beautiful water, swirling seaweed and effervescent bubbles. And then the water churned. To the left and the right there was movement, tails swishing, mermaids. It was hard to see. Everyone was craning their necks and blocking the view. The aqua women swam towards the center of the window, and Clara finally got a good look. They were beautiful. They were magical, but wait, what was that? What was that thick black cable running from their mouths? Clara looked around, stunned. These were not mermaids. These were humans in mermaid costumes. Mermaids could breathe underwater on their own. Clara was sure of it. but somehow no one else in the crowd seemed to notice or care. Clara crossed her arms and frowned. Her mother noticed and asked, "What's wrong, darling? Isn't this fabulous?" "No, it isn't." Clara tried to cross her arms even harder. "Clara, what's wrong?" Her mom bent down, closer to her daughter. Before the little girl could respond, something else moved in the water. It was approaching very quickly. Swimming with extreme ease through the crystal-clear lake, Clara's interest piqued. A new mermaid swam towards them with finesse and flair, and maybe anger? The water molecules seemed to restructure around her, propelling her through the water at extreme speed, bending around her to make channels and currents at her whim. The figure was now only a few feet behind the fake human mermaids. Clara could see it was a third mermaid, but something about her was different. Her long, tangled hair wasn't blonde or brunette like the other two. It was murky, somehow shimmering green. Her scales looked so real, jagged almost. She looked like she could slice you in half with one powerful swoosh of her tail. And her skin was so different than any other skin Clara had ever seen. It wasn't soft and fleshy, it was covered with barnacles and calluses. Clara looked up at her mother, who seemed to be considering the new act with caution. "Something about her just looks so real," Clara's mom said. And then Clara noticed she didn't have an air hose. "I think she is real, Mom." Clara's mom smiled and laughed, her eyes fluttering back to the show. Clara watched as the human mermaids spun around, at first confused, and then scared. They started to frantically swim back towards the shore. Their eyes were wide with terror, but talons caught both by their fake tails, ripping them off. The real mermaid's jaw unhinged to reveal rows and rows of teeth lining her maw. She yanked the bare-legged women towards her and chewed up the blonde first. There was an overwhelming silence as water filled her lungs. Clara watched as panic descended around them. People started to scramble and trample each other as they fought to leave the theater. Clara's mom grabbed her daughter's hand and pulled the girl towards the exit, fighting against the sardined crowd. A dull thump echoed around them. Clara looked back over her shoulder to see the creature thrashing her tail against the glass. She hit the window once, twice, 3 times, and a small crack emerged. Clara's eyes widened as she followed it up, up, up. It splintered across the entire pane. "Run, Clara!" Clara's mom pushed her towards the ladder. "You're small. Go through. I'll be okay. I'll meet you up there." "No, Mom, wait!" It was too late. Clara's mom gave her daughter one final shove before the crowd swallowed her up. Clara ran towards the ladder. She easily ducked between adults and within seconds felt the reassuring steel ladder under her hands. She climbed up as fast as she could. People were forcing her up and out. At the top of the platform, she tried to duck her head back into the hole, fighting against the stream of emerging people. "Mom!" she screamed into the crowd. "Mom, where did you go?" As her eyes scanned the dim, sunken theater, Clara noticed the creature outside. Another powerful hit, and the window sprang a leak. Water trickled in dangerously from the established crack, but the pressure was too great. With a loud crash, water gushed in, flooding the theater still full of patrons. Blood-curdling screams filled the air. "Mom!" Clara called. "Clara!" Clara followed the voice. There she was. Her mom was almost to the steel ladder, just a few more people to go. "Hang on, Mom!" From above, Clara could see the water starting to fill the tank. The vile creature was ripping away at the glass, slithering through the opening. Clara's mind raced. What could she do? How could she save her mom? "Please, please don't hurt her," Clara screamed. "Please let her be okay," she whispered to herself. The stampede of people intensified, and Clara was involuntarily carried away from the entrance by the horde. People continued to pour out of the theater entrance hole as gruesome guttural noises filled the air. Clara spun left. A man was frantically looking for his wife. To her right, the clown had tripped on his shoes as he tried to run away. A slow trickle of red dyed the water around the platform. Clara watched as the red water spread and spread until the entire shoreline was bloody. The ground around her was too densely packed with people for her to stand, but Clara crawled back towards the theater. "Mom," she called meekly. The din around her started to fade into a static buzz. "Mom, please." As she neared the waterline, splashing noises caught her attention. It looked like a giant school of oversized fish had started to circle the sunken theater, maybe here to feast on the remains. But Clara squinted. They weren't fish. They were mermaids. Clara froze, not wanting to get too close to the lake. The mermaid pack jumped and flitted through the bloody water, as if they weren't terrifying monsters but minnows learning to swim. Clara pushed them from her mind, determined to find her mother. Mom, she called with renewed strength. Where are you? She screamed. With an ear-splitting noise, an inhuman screech came from one of the merpeople. Clara wheeled around as terror washed over her, freezing her from the inside out. One mer-person floated away from the pack, bobbing and hissing. Clara would recognize her mother anywhere, even as an undead sea creature. Clara's mother's once loving eyes now flashed red. Her hair was knotted and tangled. Her skin looked venomous. Clara stumbled to her feet and slowly backed away from the lake. The mermaid's hollow eyes tracked her daughter. Clara broke out into a run towards the road. Tears poured down her face as she realized she was alone now. The mermaid let out an awful screech. Clara turned around, no longer sure which monster was her mother.